However, the archaeologists know a lot more about his successor, King Teti, whose pyramid is located a few kilometers away. Here, Audrin Labrousse is investigating with another archaeologist. Naguib Kanawati spent several years excavating King Teti's necropolis.
Yes, this is one of the best preserved pyramid texts and almost complete.
The first anomaly is to be found inside the king's tomb.
Teti's pyramid, and particularly the funerary chamber, it's rather exceptional because it is largely unfinished. One gets the impression building work came to an abrupt halt. Even the sarcophagus, it's resting on planks. It should have been placed directly on the stone floor. So we have something here, a kind of an abrupt end to the building work. Of course, here, the star ceiling, as is the case everywhere else, protects the pharaoh. But the extraordinary thing about this vaulted ceiling is that the grid was laid out, and the stars drawn, but never painted. It is exactly the same thing for the texts. They were laid out, clearly inscribed in preparation for the sculptor. They were partially carved, but never finished.
There can only be one explanation for the state of this tomb. The king died suddenly, and his funeral was held immediately. This makes murder a serious possibility.
The Egyptian historian, priest Manitou, who lived in the 3rd century BC and who was educated in both Egyptian and Greek and possibly had access to documents which are lost to us, said that King Teti was assassinated by his bodyguards. This is the first documented case of a king assassinated in ancient Egypt.
Manetho says nothing about the reasons for the assassination or the people behind it. It was therefore necessary to find evidence of the murder and identify the possible culprits. Naguib Kanawati and his team looked around the king's pyramid. Before they died, men serving during Teti's reign had their tombs built here. The archaeologists found them and so discovered some very valuable information. Each of these tombs bears the marks of the most terrible of punishments in ancient Egypt. It is no longer possible for the deceased soul, the Ka, to live in his image. So the individual is doomed to wander for eternity.
When we look at the offering table and the food that is really represented in front of the offering table, they are all intact. Even the color is very well preserved. But when we look at the figure of the tomb owner, all the outline in wood have been chiseled out, and also the name has been chiseled out, and we can still recognize the head, the arm stretched to the offering table. This is not complete elimination. This is damage to the figure. You cannot really recognize his figures, and that means he's finished completely. He's executed, and the Ka would not, cannot live in such a figure. Remember that the king is a god, and killing the king, that like killing a god, and that is not only criminal but shameful. Yeah.
Two pieces of information escaped destruction. The wife, probably innocent of the plot, and a mention of the owner's identity. Shonquipta, the king's doctor, ostracized from society for eternity.